Welcome to the Kdrama Show. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Kim.
We're here to unpack your all-time favorite Korean dramas and chat about all the reasons that we find these shows so charming.
And so addictive, and we know you do too, so settle in with some ramen and a boba tea while we dive into the Kdrama Show with Ashley and Kim.
So good at that.
Get this down.
Okay, so episode 3.
Episode 3.
Talk me through what has happened.
Okay, so we ended with being the amusement park, and June is walking up with his swag.
Being charming.
Trying hard.
Mm-hmm.
His version.
We find out he's rented the entire place.
Mm-hmm. Takes her on rides, and she's losing it.
Yeah, she hates it. Wondering why she was called in on her day off to,
Go
have
on
her
rides.
life threatened like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, because then he even asked her, like, let's go try this one. It's like this big spin one. And she's like,
No.
but do we have to?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I thought you liked it. And she's like, I was going because I thought, like, that's what you wanted me to do.
So then they're sitting on a bench talking, and
Mm-hmm.
she's saying it's so scary, and then she asks him if he's scared of anything, and he kind of thinks about telling her maybe, and then he just goes, no, of course I'm not afraid of anything. Let's move on.
Why would you think that?
Or I'm not going to tell you, or something. I
It's
don't know.
not important. Something, yeah.
And so he's like, let's go. And she goes, where are we going next? To that scary ride? He goes, no, we're going to go do what you want to do. And she smiles, and then,
The carousel.
yeah.
7 times.
7 times. It is really cute.
It was cute. And here's the thing. I'm not anti-carousels. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
7 times is too much for me.
Because you're really just going in a circle.
And
slowly.
she's, like, going back and forth between the ones that go up and down or the ones that you just, like, sit on and you can rock. And
She
so,
had to ride all the different horses.
I mean, so I get it, but I feel like 7's.
Well, it's cute because
It is
he
cute.
didn't even go on it. He just watched her enjoy it.
And she's, like, every time she passed him, like, it was like a little kid of, like,
Hi, Dad. Hi,
wave,
Mom.
smile.
So sweet. Very cute. And then she's like, yeah, I kind of rode it a lot. She goes, do you want to ride? He goes, I think watching you do it 7 times was enough for me.
That was good.
We were good. But it was so sweet how he granted a childhood wish of hers because she was never able to afford it.
Well, and she tells him that
Mm-hmm.
much later, right? They were having dinner, which, again, she noticed that there's
It's kind of awkward.
no one there,
Yeah,
and
thought that was strange.
he cuts her steak for her, which I don't know that I'm anti, but I'm not a big steak person, so if somebody else is cutting it up for me, I'm not gonna complain.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and then he just says, this whole day is an appreciation of the work you've done for me and the fact that you're quitting. I haven't said thank you, and this is my thank you. And so it kind of takes her aback just a bit because, she hasn't really heard thank you. She's heard the criticisms when things haven't been right.
right.
But the baseline expectation was that she do her job without thanks, I think. And so this was very different for her.
Well, and then even during that dinner, he opens up about his childhood because they start talking about where they're at, and she was like, we used to live here, but then it got bought out and it turned into this.
Right.
And I think actually where the carousel was where my house used to be.
He's like, maybe it was the bathroom.
Right. And he's just being a turd.
Yeah.
But then he was talking about his childhood and how he was like, my childhood sucked.
Because she was thinking about how old they would have been. She was like, I would have been 5, you would have been 9, and you would have been like a
Second grader.
He's like, no, I was a 4th grader. And she teases him about being wrong for once. And he goes, no, I was actually a 4th grader.
Because of my intelligence.
Yeah. And she goes, wow, that's so great. Because it really wasn't. It was kind of miserable because my brother and I hated each other.
Well, and he was the instigator.
Yeah, he was the antagonist. He wasn't protecting him from his friends.
He was telling his friends to do that to me.
Right.
And so, you see this, like, that they're vulnerable with each other, but he's like, no, like, really, like, I did not have a good time.
Yeah.
Even though I was a rich kid.
So they have a super strained relationship. And after that is all done, they cut to the classic fireworks on the river.
Mm-hmm.
And
Staple.
she's all like, it's so pretty.
Something
and he
must
goes,
be happening.
you're so pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my question for you.
Okay.
Would you be flattered or would you be freaked?
If somebody told me I was so pretty?
Oh no, this whole thing. This whole approach that he's taken of renting out an amusement park, buying out a restaurant for the evening, renting a giant yacht, and doing fireworks on the river for you. Would you be flattered or would you be freaked?
I think I'd be flattered.
You'd be
Especially
flattered.
because he's well, at this point, she's not realizing that it's more, but of him saying, like, this is my thank you gift because of everything. Because what makes it, I think, for me, of it being more the flattery is, you know, he's dropping her off at home and she's realizing everything in that questionnaire was like, I wrote this down. Like, these were my answers to the questions. And I'm getting everything I want. Because that's when she's just like... And that doesn't
freak you out? That freaks me out.
I think it's because she's not... she's honestly just taking it as the resignation gift.
Okay.
Not, and he's trying to woo me. That's because he's like, oh yeah, no, this is just a thank you. So I think in that aspect, it's more of a flattery of like, oh, I've been heard.
But at the same time, she, like, goes in her door and then she kind of, like, thinks about it and she's smiling and, like, she likes the attention.
Right.
So I think she is starting to realize that this may be more than just him being him. Because he doesn't do this for anybody else.
No. Well, but I love his gift for her.
The
you work too hard cow.
And she was like, let me guess, there's a stuffed animal in the back of the trunk.
But I also love that she's like, you know, the other thing that she wanted, you know, on a date would be like a romantic kiss. And she's realizing it and just takes the cow and is like, good night. Bye.
And he's just like, what just happened?
I don't understand. So the Youngjun is with Yushik again. And he's telling him, like, I did all these things, and then he just, like, has, like, this look on his face, and he smiles, and he's like, she's under the curse of the blockbuster.
Yes, the curse of the blockbuster. I love how he keeps referencing that.
And it's true, because then she notices in the cow that there's a gift. She opens it, and you don't see what it is, because she opens it and shuts it, and is like,
At first she thinks it's, like, a mistake. Yeah. So she has a dream, though, that night of her childhood Oppa, and that's when he starts to say his name.
Yes.
But she can't remember what it is.
What it's supposed to be.
So it's almost like the fact that she kind of took that interest in the Youngjun, she's kind of snapped back into like, oh yeah, but I still need to find this Oppa that
I don't know if we referenced it at all. She's being set up on a blind date. And
yes,
the reason that she was more intrigued by it, other than the fact that she wants romance, is this person that she's being set up with is a county, or is like a
investigative reporter, I thought.
Some kind of, investigative something. And she's like, you mean I can ask him questions about finding out information on this?
Yeah.
And so when she goes into this blind date, she's not like...
She's not actually interested for personal reasons.
No.
But she wants to see what she can...
It's selfish, completely.
But we first have to back up, because before the date actually happened, at work, Kim Mi-so goes into Youngjun's office, and it's kind of business as usual. And she goes in to show him the necklace, like, was this a mistake? And he's like, no. Well, then she goes to fix his necktie. And do you remember they, like... were like close proximity, and it's a little bit of tension.
Wasn't that the guitar music again too?
I don't remember either. You
could tell they were both like, it was totally
palpable at that point.
I could totally like just kiss you right now, and it wouldn't be,
because I think the thing that made the most impact in that entire night was the necklace, because it was the one thing that he thought of himself for her. The rest was written out for him, but the necklace was... And
he even said that, he goes, I go above beyond.
Yeah, exactly.
Above and beyond expectation.
For the merger, you know? And she takes off early, I think, to go to the date, doesn't she?
Yes.
Kim Jia comes in, and she's just trying to do her job. This poor girl. She mentions that Kim Mi-so left early to go on a blind date. And she was happy for her because, you know, she worked so hard. And Youngjun is just like, yeah, of course. And then he stops and he's like, come again?
Can you repeat,
what do you
please?
mean blind date? So, anyway.
What did you feel about the man that she was set up with?
He was a nerd. And kind of weird.
He was obnoxious.
Yeah, obnoxious is a good word for it. And the blockbuster curse, though.
The blockbuster curse.
She was comparing everything he did, which may have, like, passed on a normal day for being like, okay, he's kind of nervous. But she was comparing, like, Youngjun's thoughtfulness and the way that he treated her and the fact that he chose a restaurant that gave them privacy and all these kinds of things. Well, she really was under the blockbuster curse.
Well, and even if she wasn't... As somebody who is in the dating world, and it's atrocious anyway, I would have those same thoughts without the blockbuster curse of just like, okay, I wouldn't even chalk that up to nervousness. It'd be like, there are just some personality things here that I can't jive with.
Can't resolve that.
But, so the date honestly is a bit chaotic.
It was, and he just didn't have regard for her as a person, basically. He thought she was pretty, and that's kind of where it began and ended. He didn't really know anything about her.
And he makes her feel embarrassed.
He does make her feel embarrassed
and
awkward.
She even has that thought of, like, I'm so embarrassed here.
Right. Cut to after the blind date happens at the restaurant. He's like, do you want to go get coffee? She goes, sure. And that's where she kind of takes it upon herself to ask about, or breach the subject of...
Right, can you find out this information?
But before that, I think she had her picture taken by the other secretary and sent to Yushik.
His secretary, yeah.
Yeah.
And he shows it to Youngjun, and he's just like...
His whole world is...
rocked
at that point.
Poor guy.
After these two have their little date, they're outside kind of wrapping things up. And... Of course, she sees a crooked necktie, and what's her gut reaction?
Of course, it's going to be to fix it.
She's gonna fix it. That is literally what she does all day. And of course, this guy's thinking, she's touching me. This is very intimate. She's into me. And you just hear somebody yell, "Jimmy-so!" And you look down, and who is watching this?
It's Yoonjun, but my favorite is her response is to choke the guy.
Yeah, I know, that poor kid is getting, like, hung by the tie.
And she's just like,
She's like, I wasn't doing anything.
I'm so sorry.
It meant nothing. I didn't mean to fix another man's tie.
Well, and then that's her going, like, that's apologizing. She's like, why do you need to apologize? You're not in a relationship with this man. And it's not even like she feels like she's necessarily done anything wrong, but she's just like, I don't want him to be confused.
Yeah.
Maybe subconsciously.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a little tension there. But then, after that guy's kicked out of the picture, he's, like, talking to her about how she shouldn't be doing these things. And then a leaf kind of drifts down out of the tree. And
falls into the handkerchief pocket.
And so she goes to grab it, and...
Well, she just starts giggling.
Oh, is that what she does?
And he's just like, what is so funny? And she's like, oh... removes the leaf, and she's like, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. Does he take her home, or does she get home on her own? I don't remember. But when she's getting home, her Ani Pilnam is waiting for her with chicken and beer, which is like a staple. And she's sort of expressing her concerns about
the relationship
codependency that they have.
Well, she's a psychiatrist, and unfortunately, a lot of her
psychoanalyzing
is way off.
Yeah.
I think there's elements where she's not incorrect, but I think she just takes it way too far.
I think that at face value, and maybe if you had gone back a year, you probably would have been right, but the fact that they're starting to develop these feelings is making both of them a little bit crazier in the way that they're acting. Yeah. And so it's reading weird. Because they don't understand, they themselves don't understand what's happening. But the fact that she calls the necklace a dog collar, it's like, oh, yikes.
That one was a way too...
That was a bit much.
Excessive.
Yeah.
For the...
Then we skip to Morpheus. Handsome guy on a plane. He's an author, but no one's actually seen his face.
Has a clue who he is.
But they think he's really handsome. Because how couldn't he be if he's going to write great stories like that? He has to be super cute.
Any photo that's ever been taken is insanely blurry.
It's just like a glimpse of his ear or something. So he's on a plane, and all of his fans have figured out what plane he's on. They know what he's wearing. And so they're all ready to just, like, rush him at the airport. He figures it out because...
He's not an idiot.
Yeah, and he sees this lady... and says, do you want my jacket or something?
I think this hat would
this would look nice on you. And so he gives her, parts of his outfit that would have pointed him out. And so those fans all rush her, and they're just like, you're a woman.
And she's like, what?
And what do you want from me? Please go away. And so he thinks he's pretty clever, but we see him call his mom, which also happens to be Youngjun's mom.
It's true. He's like, I'm back. I'm in Korea. And she's like, well, I'm not even home.
Yeah. So they're talking about the athletic competition after that point.
Well, yeah, because Jun gets mad at Miso because he's like, we have this athletic competition tomorrow. I need you to be prepared for this. Like, you're kind of a essential piece of this whole thing. And they're getting ready for it. He talks to him. He's like, you better be ready to die for first place,
Jia's like, whoa, this is a bit intense, right, Kim Miso? And she's over there like,
stretching,
yeah, she's
warming up,
ready for it.
And then Jun starts freaking out, and he's not even yelling. He's like panic screaming.
Yeah.
Secretary Kim, Secretary Kim.
Yeah.
And he's hunched over, full-blown panic attack.
And fetal position.
And she looks down and notices there are cable ties
On his computer
computer wires. And you mentioned for last episode, she had specifically left a note, do not allow these.
And Jia was really dismissive of it. And so she hurries and cuts the cable off of the wires, and she throws them in her pocket and says, are you okay? Are you okay?
Anything else I can do? And she takes responsibility for it.
For Jia, even though he knows that it was her. So she covers her butt, and then they leave, and Jia's like, isn't that a bit much of a reaction? And Miso is like, this was your fault. I told you.
Yes, this is specific information.
Yeah. People have phobias sometimes. I have a fear of spiders, and it's a phobia. He has a fear of cable ties. You don't have to understand it.
Right.
But
It might seem excessive. Yeah, it might seem excessive to you, but you're not the one that's having to deal with this.
And that's kind of the first time we've, like, put their two phobias together, I feel like. It's interesting that two super successful people like this would both have such a strong, like, irrational fear. But then she kind of lightens the blow. She knew it was a genuine,
She wasn't trying to be vindictive.
Right, exactly. It was her trying to be helpful and trying to
organize.
Yeah, and not understanding that she went about it in the wrong way. And so she brings up Morpheus again. And
right, she's like, you have to let me have the book.
Yeah, and then Jia is like, okay, you don't hate me after all.
Right. But then there's a really sweet moment immediately after where she comes to Jun with, what is it, chamomile tea, most likely.
Yeah, probably.
And she's just like, here's this. And that's when she has the thought of, like, maybe he's not possessive of me. Like, maybe he actually needs me. Like, it's like, there's nobody else that understands.
Right. Nobody...
It's not a dog collar.
Nobody gets these nuances like I do. Nobody understands him like I do. And he is clearly losing his ability to function without me around. So he apparently gets over it. We get to the athletic competition. Kim Miso is killing it out there. She's super athletic.
Like, get it, girl.
Yeah, and coordinated in ways I never will be. And then it comes to the three-legged race. And there's this guy named Guinam.
And he's supposed to be the heartthrob of the office.
And he kind of is. I mean, he's a good-looking dude.
He is. He is. I mean, he's not Jun by any means.
No, but he's a good-looking guy.
He's a good-looking guy. We can get into him more later. He's an interesting character. Enjoyable, but also, like...
I don't even know if I'd say enjoyable.
Ridiculous.
Maybe this time around I'll like him more.
Yeah.
First time around I was like, nah.
But because he's the heartthrob,
yeah,
and they have to do this three-legged race, Jun leans over to Yushik and he's like, okay, who is this? And because you were talking about skinship earlier, they're running this race and they want to win.
Yep.
She's super competitive.
Right.
And they end up with their arms around each other to, like, help push each other forward.
Yep, to not fall over.
And then, at the end of it, which is, I don't know, I'm hoping, please Lord, let this only be in K-drama culture, but then the whole company starts going, date her. And you're just like, one, that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That makes me very uncomfortable. But not only does it make me uncomfortable, it makes Jun so uncomfortable that he's like losing it. Yeah. And he goes to leave and he falls on the stairs, which... There are two clumsy people in this room right now.
Relatable.
We are not judging in any way. We're going, yeah, I probably would have done the same thing.
Word, yeah.
But I think it was so cute because in his jealousy, he's, like, not paying attention. It cuts to Miso and she's, like, scolding him. She's like, how is somebody who is sane and sober, how do they fall on the stairs? And he's like, no, it's okay. Like, I'm okay. And she's like,
you're not okay.
Stop it.
And then one of the assistants goes to help. She's like, I'm taking you to the hospital. And one of the assistants goes to help. And Yushika's just like, I wouldn't do that.
Unless you want to be sent to India.
Yeah, right. And so so they get him taken care of. She gets him home. She's wanting to help him ice his ankle, and she's like, here, you need to remove your sock. And he's like, no, leave the sock on. And she goes, don't be a baby about it.
Like, don't make me do this.
Yeah, and so she takes his sock off, and she sees, like, these terrible scars on his ankle. And he's sort of, I don't know if embarrassed is the right word.
Self-conscious, for sure.
Self-conscious is a good word for it. He didn't want to explain what they were.
Right, it was a different level of vulnerability that he was like, I'm not, I can't share that.
Yeah. So I don't know that she asked. She just iced it and moved on, and then...
But then he gets jealous again.
They do this thing about, why were you so close to that guy? Do you get that close to all kinds of guys? And she goes, it was just work related. It had nothing to do with the guy. And he's like, would this close be acceptable? And she's like, of course. And he's like,
just getting closer.
Would this close be acceptable? Until they like...
Until he grabs her and pulls him on top of her on the couch.
Classic K-drama scene where...
But the tension there.
Oh yeah, it's palpable.
Oh my goodness. I think the look on her face was, honestly... If I was in her position, I would have the exact same look on her face of like,
what just happened?
I'm not upset about it, but also like, what?
How do I respond? You are also my boss.
Do I suddenly like learn how to levitate and just whoom? Do I roll? Do I like what?
Yeah, but classic K-drama scenes. And that is where we leave off with episode 3.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad that we have the ability to stream it, because if I had to wait a week, I would have lost my ever-loving mind.
Like what you're hearing? Go ahead and hit that follow button so that you don't miss out on any new episodes. Thanks for listening to The K-Drama Show with Ashley and Kim. We'll see you next time.